welcome to Kidlit Live with Arden Jones. I just want to let you all know that there's a slight connection issue going on. I think it's at my end, so please do bear with me. It will catch up. It'll kind of do like a funny, like quick catch up. I'll probably like move super fast or something, and then it should go back to normal. So I'm really sorry if there's any issues with anyone watching. So anyway, welcome to tonight's joined by Lisa Bentley. I have her, as you can see around the screen, this is her book that's recently come out. It's called The Dreams We and she wrote it and she illustrated it, and it's been published by Simon & Schuster. I have it here. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I'm really excited to chat with her. So I'm going to bring her on, and please, everyone, give her a nice warm welcome. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, please do so via my YouTube channel, which is Arden Jones Author. And hopefully I can ask Lisa. So let's say hello to Lisa.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
Oh,
I'm all good, thank you.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on, because it was a bit of a late notice one, wasn't it? And I'm so glad that you've stepped in, because your book arrived today. I've been so excited to get this book, and I was really hoping it was going to come by today, and it arrived this morning, and I was like, oh, thank goodness, because I was so excited to read it.
I mean, what are the chances?
Exactly. I know, because I just thought, no, it's not going to arrive in time, but yeah, there we go. So and it's just stunning, and I took the cover off, and I can't believe like how beautiful it is underneath. Can I show it?
You can show everybody.
They want to buy it, and then they can find out about it underneath.
That's okay.
Yeah,
you can show them. Yeah, so that image, actually, I can tell you a secret about that image. That image was meant to be at the end of the story, and my art director removed it. And I was like, don't take that out. That's like the moment where she dreams that, and she's on the moon with her daddy, and she goes, oh, no. She goes, I've got just the place for it. And she told me, and when I went off the Zoom call, I basically bawled my eyes out, because I was like, that's so clever. Like, yeah, it's such a lovely touch.
It's amazing. I mean, you do sometimes see a different cover underneath, but having it like a total double cut,
Yeah.
front and back spread, that surprise, as it sounds it was for you as well. It's really lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so glad to have you on the show. I think it'd be really lovely for people to sort of learn a little bit about you and how you come about illustrating and writing for children. So is it something that you've always wanted to do, or always felt like you would be doing?
Yeah, I think so. My mum actually has my favorite photo of me when I was a child. I think I'm about 2 or 3 in the photo, and I've got a Snoopy apron on and a jumper, and I'm outside, and she's stuck massive sheets of paper to the wall outside, and I'm painting and looking at the camera at the same time. And she said that ever since I could literally pick up a pencil or a paintbrush, I wanted to draw. And then I also have a memory of going to my friends' houses to play, and they'd be like, what do you want to do? And I'd be like, I want to colour in. And they'd be like, oh, really? And all I wanted to do was sit and draw and colour in.
Oh, wow.
I used to copy pictures out of the picture dictionaries at school and sit and copy them meticulously. And then obviously at school, secondary school, all I wanted to do was art. And I had the most fabulous art teacher, Mr. Rice, and he really instilled the belief in me that actually I can make a career out of this.
Yeah.
At that point, I didn't really know what type of art I wanted to do, but he definitely steered me down the path of belief of you can turn this into a career, you know, because you do. I think, I mean, I've definitely heard it from a lot of people saying, oh, you won't earn much money if you do, or you won't, you won't make millions. I'm not interested in making millions. I mean, it'd be nice, but I love nothing more than doing this as my job now. I want to get up in the morning and sit at my desk and create stuff. Like it's so good. I mean, the writing came later. The writing actually came when I was at Loughborough University doing illustration. We did a children's book module, and we had a practicing children's book illustrator, Stephen Waterhouse, who was our tutor. And it just, that whole section of the course just inspired me. I was like, oh, I can write as well. And it was that sort of light bulb moment of, oh, I can do this. And I'd love to do this all the time. I left the course feeling like that's what I wanted to do, but it was some time later before it was actually realized.
Wow, that's so amazing, because I think to always know that's something you've wanted to do, I think it's so good, because I mean, I think it's great either way. It can come at you later, it can come at you earlier, but knowing that you're fulfilling that dream that you've had of creating something, and that's what you're doing for a living, and you're still so passionate about it, I think is amazing.
Because in between times, so obviously I left uni, I then became a teacher. Because the submission, I found I found the submission process for submitting artwork and manuscripts really difficult. So I graduated in 2007, and I make it sound like it was like the dark ages, but you used to have to package everything up and post it. Like they didn't do email submissions. It was, you had to print all your stuff off, which cost loads of money. Then you had to put it in an envelope, then you had to pay to post it, and this thing weighed a ton because it had got big pictures in it and a dummy book and a manuscript. And then you had to wait for ages and ages and ages, and then it would inevitably come back with a not this time, or we love your artwork, but you know, we're going into a recession, so we can't afford to take on new illustrators. And it was every time that was happening and I was losing money, it's really, really disheartening. So I gave it a break and decided to become a teacher. Because before then I was also a swimming teacher, because I come from a competitive swimming background. So that seemed like a logical path to be able to use my art skills whilst also teaching. So I've done it. I've gone around the houses a bit to get to where I am, but I'm here now.
You've swam around the houses. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It's a very wavy, up and down road or sea to get to, isn't it? So yeah, I think it's good to have the air we need, don't we, as creatives in this industry, definitely.
That's it.
So let's find a little bit about your querying journey. So you're represented by Caitlin Sanchez at Bradford Literary Agency. How did you find your agent? Was it some of us, it was queried for a short time, some queried for a long time, some have had more than one agent. It's so many journeys, which I love to hear about.
So mine's not a very linear one. Somehow I managed to make these things my own, like, unique way of doing things. So my querying journey was quite short. I suppose, I mean, I've been told by agents and other people in the industry that, you know, what I do have going for me is that I can do both parts of the book. So from an editor's point of view, from a publishing point of view, it's a lot easier, because sometimes finding those illustrators to illustrate your work can take a long time. I know people that have been waiting, you know, they've waited months and months and months to find the right illustrator. So from a publishing point of view, I'm a lot easier, I guess. So I think that helped a little bit. But actually what happened was, so I have a friend, Bernard Menzer, who is also, he's an author. And I've done a little bit of work with him already to help with his submissions for an agent. And he was then agented and I was writing this book, and we're same of the part of the same critique group for writing as well. It also happens he just lives down the road from me, so we do meet up occasionally. And so he'd seen my manuscript, and he was like, "Have you done the illustrations yet?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I have." So I showed him them, and then he was like, "You should really send this." And I was like, "Well, I'm planning on it. I'm planning on it." Next minute, he says, "My agent's open by referral." So what that meant was she'd been closed to submissions because she had so many in her inbox that the agents very often close down their submissions. And then they'll announce when they'll reopen again. But what she decided to do was open by referral. So if she had manuscripts referred to her by people who thought they were good, she would take a look at them. And he said, I want to refer your manuscript. And I was like, okay, go for it. So he sent that to her, and I got an immediate email back to say, this is wonderful. And then she said, but however, I think you'd be more suited to my colleague. So my first agent was actually a lady called Catherine Westbecker, who is no longer agenting. She's recently stopped. And she got in contact with me, and then that was it. She, we were working together. I had submitted the same manuscript to, I think, 3 other agents, one of which I didn't get a reply on. One of which I didn't get a reply on for a full year later. So I'd already sold the book, and then I got a reply, which was a no, which made me laugh. And then I can't remember what the other one, again, it was another late response. So, but obviously by that point, I'd got my agent. I was with Bradford Literary Agency. And the other interesting thing to note is that I'm with an American agency. So Bradford Literacy Agency is based in San Diego in California. And so when we go out on submission, my books go out on submission in the US first. And then obviously we decide whether we keep the foreign rights, don't keep the foreign rights, or whether they distribute it. And that's the way it works. So yeah. I went to the American route.
Well, I mean, it's a bigger area of sales, isn't it, for you? So I think that's amazing too. Researching, and the publishers say there's another publisher name as well, isn't there? It's it comes up Simon & Schuster, but there's another imprint. Is it a different imprint in America?
Yeah, so they have different imprints of Simon & Schuster. Mine's Paula Wiseman. Yes. They have, I think there's 2 or 3, but Paula Wiseman is the one that I'm with. And then obviously there's separate to that, there is Simon & Schuster UK as well. My book will be distributed to Simon & Schuster UK. I've just had it on good authority recently. So that'll be great because I'll be able to have a proper UK book launch, which is fabulous. Yeah, there are lots of...
I'll put my hand up to be there. I love a book.
You will get an invite, don't worry. Yeah, but there's you'll find with publishers, there's different arms to the publisher. Like Penguin have Random House, for example, and Dial is another one in the US. So they're big.
Oh, well, that's so interesting because well, I know of Bernard. We used to be in a critique group. I'm wondering if, because when I left, they had another person join. I wonder if with someone else was in the same critique group. We'll discuss that later. But yeah, Bernard's great. And because it was a Kickstarter with Rainy Day Farm, he did.
Rainy Day Zoo, yeah.
And it's a gorgeous book, so I have it because obviously it's such a lovely book. But we'll talk about your current book that's just come out for now. So again, I'll just show it's The Dreams We Made. And it's published with Simon & Schuster. So it's a beautiful story. Would you be happy to share your inspiration for writing it?
Yeah. So I wrote it during lockdown, COVID lockdown. I was on maternity leave, having had my second child.
It must have been a
And
hard time for you at that moment.
yeah,
Scary
'cause we went into lockdown when he was 4 months
anyway,
old.
but yeah.
And my little girl was 2.5 at the time, I think, when I wrote the book. And what kickstarted it was I'd already started doodling things and thinking I'd really like to write again. You know, I'm here, I'm in the house on my own while my other half's working upstairs with 2 children. When they're napping, I need to do something for me because I'm getting a bit stagnant. So I started writing, and then there was one particular evening and the moon was out. And my little girl she's always had incredible speech. She was always very good at talking from a very young age. So the conversations she was having at that age were pretty amazing. But she actually said to her dad, they were both stood at the window, she says, "Daddy, can I go to the moon?" And he said, "Well, yeah." He says, "One day," he goes, "if you aim high, you know, and you do this, do that, you can go to the moon." And she said, will you come with me?" And I couldn't quite believe, I sat there bawling my eyes out quietly in the corner listening to this conversation, because his response was, "Well, the trouble is, because you have to work really hard and learn how to get to the moon," he says, "by the time you're able to go to the moon, I might not be here anymore." And I was like, wow, we're going there, are we? Like, you know, like, and she said, "Oh, but why?" And so they then had this really beautiful conversation about death. But he was very straightforward about it. He didn't say, you know, "I'll be in the stars," or, you know, some of the things you think are the right thing to say to children at the time, but actually the advice is the opposite. He was just very honest with her, and she took it well. I'm not sure how much she understood, but she was happy with the answer that he'd given. And I was just in bits in the corner. And then it then triggered memories in me. So I suffered a lot of grief as a young child. I mean, I'm lucky I still have my own dad. So the reason the book is written about a little girl who loses a dad is because of the conversation that my daughter had with her daddy. And the character is her, like that little girl in the book. It was based on her. But I lost my baby brother died when I was 3. I never knew one of my grandparents. My grandfather, because he died before I was even born. My granddad, sorry, died when I was 3. And then my nana, Dot, who I was extremely close to, she died when I was 5 years old. And I have very vivid
Very young
memories. Yeah, I have super vivid memories of her being alive. And it's weird because I remember things like the kitchen counters like up here in my memory. So I know it's a real memory, and I'll just describe things to my mum saying, "Oh, did she used to have these bowls?" And mum was like, yeah. I have memories of her wearing a hairnet in bed, reading me Chicken Licking story at bedtime. You know, there's all these smells, like the smells will come back to me, and I'll be like, "Why does that smell like Nana?" And my mum would be like, "Oh, I'm using the same hand cream she used to use." You know, all these things that are coming back. I have very strong memories. But the flip side to that is I also have very strong memories of when she died. And I think I'm still processing it now, because I don't remember ever being spoken to about it. I'm sure I was. It's not the sort of thing my mum and dad, you know, they wouldn't not talk about it. But I think also they were so deep in their own grief that they probably, you know, they might not have been able to talk to me about it and might have found that really hard. I don't remember those bits. I just remember feeling very lost, very angry, very confused. Sometimes I'd forget, and I'd think that we would see her again. And I have all of these memories in my head. And then to add to that, what happened then is I was then also really close with my nana Joyce. And she didn't die until I was 16, but again, still very, very young.
Yeah.
And she was like, as like Nana Dot was, she was like a parent to me as well. I mean, my parents are fantastic. They, you know, the best parents I could have ever have asked for. They're amazing. But it was like having a third parent, like, because she was always there. She was always ironing in our living room, ironing all the clothes for my mum. And then suddenly she wasn't there. And again, I went through the same emotions, you know, so angry, so confused. I sometimes used to think, oh, if I do this, you know, she might hear me, or she might show me a sign that she's around still. You know, all these things I was clinging on to. And I just realized, like, obviously I realized that I hadn't actually processed it properly myself at the point of writing the book.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really need to write a book that will help families or children, or, you know, anybody that's going through the loss of someone super close. Like, it happens to be about a dad, but it could be, you know, it would widen those conversations about
Absolutely.
anybody. And I purposely didn't say why he died either, because I think, you know, you'll have more autonomy with that main character if, you know, if it's left open for discussion or
Well,
imagination.
absolutely, because people die for various reasons, and I think sometimes if it was about one specific reason, that book would then be aimed for children who are experiencing that what has happened in this book was no actual reason for it. You don't know why, or it would work for so many different children around the world that are lost someone that they love. And I think that's really, you've done that really
well. Thank you. Yeah, I did a lot of research for the book as well, like how should you speak to a child who's just lost a parent or a loved one. And luckily it was what I thought it would be, which is you tell them the truth.
Yeah.
You don't give them details unless they ask for them, but you tell them the truth.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't want to give them that false hope that they will come back, which is a really sad thing to think about, but you can understand why you shouldn't say to them they've gone to the moon or they've gone to the stars. As a young child, you'll think, well, they might come back and see me sometimes, or, you know, they might come back from there. Yeah, so I learned a lot as well writing it too.
I mean, I think that's really interesting, because unless you do that sort of research, you know, I don't think there's necessarily a way for everybody, don't they? But I think finding out what I mean, it's just such a hard topic, I think. But some people would find comfort that to say to their children, this is what's happened, because I think it's easier to explain, isn't it, rather than and it's easier for yourself to, if you believe that that's what's happening, then you'll then relay that to your children. It's finding out, I think, how you feel and what you believe. And when you read these books, we're reading always at the same time. You know, when I read this, I've only read this today, and I was just like, wow, I just think it was so well done, and so something that, you know, if anything happened, it would be something that I would refer to and use, because I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's just handled so well and so gently and so heart. It's really heartfelt. But yeah, it's so important to have books like this out there for children. So for getting it out there, for this book to finally get with Simon and Schuster, was it out? Did your agents send it out on just a general submission, or was there already interest in it or anything?
Yeah, so it was Catherine at the time, Catherine Westbecker, and so what she did was together we edited it together. We critiqued the images together. Then I had to make a dummy book. So it's a black and white sketched version of the book, which I do it on the computer because then I can turn it into a PDF. And that goes along with the manuscript and a pitch. So usually the agent writes the pitch. Well, it's like that in the US. I'm not sure about the UK, but in the US, the agent will write the pitch for you and say, they'll say like, what do you think to this? Is this okay? And that's great. And then they send it out to, I think we went with 12 editors. And I was amazed at the big hitters that were in there. So you've got HarperCollins, Penguin, Simon & Schuster. There's your top three.
Yeah.
And then you've got some of the smaller imprints like Dial, Scholastic, Bloomsbury. You've got this whole list of publishers that you know.
Yeah.
And you start to get a little bit
of like working with. You see the names and go,
yeah. At this point, I'm like, I'll work with any of you. I am happy with this list. Yeah, and then she sends that off, and then you wait. And it's one of those things where you look at your phone about 50 times a day, and it becomes a habit. And I was actually talking to Bernard at the time because he'd already been through this, and he goes, "Just stop it. Stop looking at your emails." And he was like, "You've got to be strict with yourself, otherwise it's going to consume you." And then it wasn't long. I think it was about 2 weeks.
Wow.
And we'd already had a couple of passes for various reasons. And then Simon & Schuster, so Catherine Laudone, who's my editor at Simon & Schuster, comes back with, "This is great. Can we meet on a Zoom call?" So the Zoom call's set up, and she says, I think it's great. But I would like, if we were to work together, if you would be happy to work with me on this, I think we need to rewrite some bits. So then your heart sinks a bit because you think, oh, really? Like, can't you just take it as it is? So we did a rewrite. And I think the first rewrite was based on the fact, I can't remember now, what it was. I remember what the second one was about. There was something to do with the first one anyway. She wanted it changing. So we did quite a lot of work to rewrite it and edit the drawings, and then sent it back to her. And she's like, if you're happy for me to send this, then I'm going to take it to the rest of the team. And I thought, great, yeah, do it. So she took that. Then she came back, and I thought I was crossing everything. And she says, we'd like you to make a few changes. Like, again, really? And the reason for this, though, and I totally get it, they felt because it was focused, originally it was focused around the moon, and the book was called Our Moon. And it was moon focused.
Okay.
And they felt because it was moon focused that it was too much like one of the books that the Fan Brothers had written. It was reminding them a lot of that. And at the time I hadn't read this book, so I didn't know what they were talking about. So I had to go away and read it.
I'm trying to think, but I can't place it either.
I can't remember which one either. That it again, it's such a long time ago now. And they also sent me to watch a Pixar short about a little boy and his grandma who were down in I can't remember what it's called, but they were down in a hole, and there's lots of things flying around, and he builds a rocket to try and get out.
Okay.
Because they wanted to show.
So I need to see if I can find that.
Oh, it will get your tissues ready because it's a tearjerker. And they just wanted me to see how it could be rewritten so that it wasn't focused on the moon. It was actually focused on something else, but still retained the concept and the meaning without, because that they liked that bit. So I went away and rewrote it, and then this is what happened. And obviously delighted to get we took it to acquisition, because it has to go through lots of layers. So it has to go past the editor, then it has to get past the editing team, and then it has to get past the big boss men, the big publishers at the top.
Yeah.
And it did, obviously. So that was wonderful. And then they make you an offer, and then the contract always takes a long time. So it's one of those things that takes a long time. And then eventually one day you sign, and then that's it. And then you're assigned as an illustrator as well. I'm assigned an art director, as well as keeping my editor, Catherine Ordone. And it was just great. I remember having a meeting, I think it was near Christmas of 2021. And I had like my agent, my editor, and my art director, and I was like, wow, they're all here for me. Like, it was a real
what an amazing feeling, though.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh, that's so amazing. So because this book's recently come out in May, hasn't it? So and it's not something I actually asked you in the questions, but earlier you mentioned that it will be coming over to here. Do you have any idea when
no, I'm not sure when. I mean, I know that there's actually been problems on Amazon, and I think from what I can figure out, it's because I think you guys have sold them out, which is great. So all these people that are buying the books from the US have basically, I think, bought up all the stock that they had, because they must only buy like small amounts when it's a new book and an unknown person.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is people have ordered them and they've not got enough to give out. So it was through asking.
Well, I mean, I could get mine via Amazon.
Yes. So I know some people that reordered through Blackwell's, but now it says it's all temporarily unavailable. So I think they've all got.
Oh, did I get I might have got the last one.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. It's not great, but it is great. If you look at the positive, it means it's selling really well. So that's fabulous. But it was through that and through asking my editor sort of what's happening. Like, is this normal? And she said, don't worry. She was like, we will be distributing to the UK. I will try and find a date out for you. I don't know what that date is yet, but I will update everybody on my Instagram page when I know what that date is. So hopefully it won't be too long.
Oh, fingers crossed. Yeah, definitely let us know. Because as well as obviously this gorgeous book, you illustrate for other people. You mentioned Bernard earlier. So how, I mean, I know about it, that you've already told us that you met via your critique group, so we kind of know how you met, but how does the collaboration between you both work? So he's the writer, you two both work together on this, because obviously it was outside of a publisher, so you're both working together, I'm assuming, it closer than how it would usually work with traditional publishing.
Yeah, so we actually started working together before I joined the same crit group he was in, because we both got a mutual friend. I used to work with this lady, and he knew her outside of because of where he lives, and he told her that he needed, because he'd already self-published one book, and he wanted potentially to have the illustrations reworked because he just wanted a bit of a fresher feel. She said, I know someone. Put us in touch. And then we started working together. And then it was sort of later on down the line, I think it was as we were coming out of COVID in the summer, he said to me, right, forget what I said about reworking the illustrations. I've got a different story. Do you want to do it with me? He goes, and we'll self-publish. So we went for it, and we did something called I'm sure there's a lot of people that know that it's called a Kickstarter. So you sign up to Kickstarter and you say an amount that you want to raise, and then you create a profile on there which tells everybody about your idea, why you want to do it, what it's going to look like. So I'd already produced most of the book by this point, so we used some of the illustrations to grab people's attention, designed the page. So I designed all the little banners that said, you know, if you pay £20, you get a book, a bookmark, and something else. I don't know, like, you know, you'd have different packages for different amounts.
Yeah, things like signed copies and things like that. Yeah,
that's it. So you get like different rewards for different amounts, and we raised the money. So that was a little celebration. I think it was on my birthday actually that we raised the money. So that was like a woo. Yeah, and so that was it then. Like once we have the money, then we're able to print the book and then sign it and send it out to everybody, and it's done really, really well. I know that it was, I don't know if it still is, selling in there's 2 indie bookshops in London that took it on. Yeah.
I mean, it stands out, doesn't it? If you put it on a shelf, it definitely stands out against other books because it's beautiful, the colours on it, and it's such a lovely book.
We've had lots of comments actually, because we've done obviously a few book festivals as well. We've had comments from people that run the book festivals saying you wouldn't know that it's a self-published book. They've said that the quality is brilliant. So that was lovely.
The paper. The thing that's printed on the paper is lovely. It feels nice in your hands. You know, sometimes I think they're quite transparent when you look at some self-published. But this, you wouldn't look at it, read it, feel it, or anything. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with self-published books. I think there's so many different acetate to get your book out there. But I think a lot of it does involve cost. So generally, the cheaper that you go, the less quality the paper is and stuff like that. But this book is just lovely.
Great. Oh, thank you.
So are you working with anybody else? Anything happening at the moment? Any new?
There is something new. I'm not allowed to say a lot at the minute because I have to wait for an announcement.
It's so sneaky.
I know. It's like, I want to tell everybody, but there is something else. There is something else coming, and I'm hoping it won't be long before I'm allowed to say what. But yes, there is.
Amazing.
Project number 2.
Oh, that's so good. I'm really looking forward to that. So you mentioned earlier that you done your sketches when you was just sending out I forgot, like your dummy versions and stuff. But so do you use pencils? How do you
So I'm a bit of a mixed bag. Like I said, I don't do anything the normal way. I make my own thing up. So the dummy book is
issue. Sorry, let's look back now.
Can you hear me now? Am I back? Yeah. Okay. Good. I work digitally on the dummy book, and it's all done on a Cintiq graphics tablet, and then that's all created into a PDF. I think Arden disappeared. I'll carry on. So that's all created into a PDF, and then that's the dummy book made. I add the text on there on Photoshop as well. And then my illustrations are created using collage, paint, and then it's all... Oh, can you see me now?
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes,
it said it had totally frozen. Had I frozen for you?
You'd frozen, but it said everyone can see and hear you, so I carried on.
Oh, good. It was just me that was. That's great because I could. Oh, you had frozen for my end, so that was really strange. But I didn't have any of that, so it's probably all me. So I'm glad everyone can hear you. Let's carry on.
Yeah. Okay. Well, basically, just so you know, I said basically just very quickly that I work on the. I don't even know if I say this right, but a Cintiq, which is a big graphics tablet with a graphics pen. It's all pressure sensitive, so if I press hard, it will make the line thicker and darker. If I pull it off, it'll make it light. So it's just like using normal materials. Put everything in, do everything in Photoshop, put the text on, create the PDF. That's the dummy book done. The actual illustration, so I've got my copy here. So this is all like collage. So I used an Amazon parcel to make this. So I actually have the bits somewhere. I don't know where I've put them, but and then this page, let me find it. My favorite page.
I'm looking at the same time.
I'm trying to find it now. I can't remember which page it is. This is the problem when you do a book. It's such a long time ago and you do so many pages. So there's a page where she's carrying her equipment.
Okay,
I'll find it now. But I made some tiny toilet rolls.
Okay, I know what one. I remember seeing that.
Have you got it?
I thought that was gorgeous, so I
there it is, that one. That one there.
Yes, because I looked at that. I mean, I could see throughout that there's some like real items in there, and then on that I was like, wow, there's so much, and I just thought it was just so gorgeous because you don't get to see this sort of stuff very often. It was so original and so beautiful.
And I tried to scan that in and it didn't work. So that's just actually a photo that was taken on my phone.
That's so clever.
And then obviously dropped into the computer and then worked over the top. And I scanned textures in as well. Yeah, I scanned textures in as well. And then you can cut them out on Photoshop and resize them, change the color. You can do all sorts of things. And then the final touches really are just like the little lines or details that I just draw over the top. So it's a real mishmash of bits, really.
Yeah. Oh, is this something that you think you'd carry on doing with your illustration? So did you feel it was just for this book because there's a lot of all the creating and the making stuff in there? So that really worked for this.
Yeah. So the collage bits in this work really well. In the Rainy Day Zoo, actually, the pangolin is made out of because I wanted that texture. He's made out of bamboo leaves. So we've got a bamboo bush in our garden, and I used the dead bamboo leaves to make his scales. So if it warrants it, I use it. If it's not actually doing anything to help me describe a texture or meaning in any way, then I won't use it. It's very purposeful. There's a reason behind it. So
I love that. It just that you just totally reminded me of what it's like when we're writing and we put in like illustration notes in. It's like you only put in what is actually needed. And everything's there to push the story forward.
Exactly.
And it really reminded if it works for the story, then put it in. If it doesn't, it could possibly be used in another, then leave it. But yeah, so that was, I just found that really that was so good to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. So I think because we'd spoken a little bit about what happens, how your book was on its journey, and I think you covered quite a lot about what it's actually like behind publishing doors. But is there anything else that you'd like to, for an author illustrator, because I think it works differently for just an author or differently just for an illustrator, but for someone that illustrates and writes, is there anything you feel that you could sort of advise as a tip or something for what it's like behind working with editors and art directors?
I mean, it's fascinating working with a team of people who their brains, like everybody's brains, are switched on, and they'll have ideas for things that you hadn't even thought of. You'll be able to give your ideas, and then it's really nice when they go, oh, that's amazing, yeah, we'll do that. I guess in terms of working with them, just be yourself. Like, it's so nice when you get feedback from them to say, we really love working with you, we want to work with you again. Like, there's nothing nicer than hearing that.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that worries about how I come across all the time. Like, I'll dissect this later and think, oh, what did I look like? You know.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I'll probably frozen like this.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be great.
Like, did I sound really weird? Should I have said that? Did I say the right thing? And, you know, so to hear someone say, I would really like to work with you again, is like the highest compliment, especially when it's coming from a big publisher, you know.
Yeah.
So I'd say just be yourself, stay true to yourself. Also, in terms of writing and illustrating, when you do a book like this, it's months and months and months of work. You're going to be nursing this thing for months. You've got to like what you're writing about or what you've got to draw. If you know you don't like drawing buildings, for example, don't write a book that includes buildings, for example. And it's the same when you're producing your portfolio. If you don't want people to pick you for stories where there might be landscapes or something like that, don't put landscapes in your portfolio. You've got to make sure that whatever you want to do, you're staying true to yourself, and you're directing it in the direction that you would like it to go in. So something I do is everything I do is influenced by the things I see around me. It's mostly my children, because I spend a lot of time with them. And they are hilarious and come up with the best scenarios. Their ideas, their little brains, they're just so interesting. So everything I've ever written most of it's come from them, or it's come from people I know, or something someone said, or because that's the stuff I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And it just spurs me on to write more. And then it doesn't matter if it takes me months to do it, because actually I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Yeah, that's probably the biggest bit of advice.
Yeah, I think like for these interviews that I've been doing, this seems to be like what most people would say. You write or illustrate what you love to do, because it comes across and it shows, and more so than something that you feel you have to do. And I love what you said then. Like, don't illustrate something, put that in your portfolio if you definitely don't want to be doing that, because that did not even cross my mind, like, because obviously I don't illustrate that. I wouldn't have even thought that. So that was so interesting, and I loved hearing that, because I wonder if there are people out there that are illustrating going, I need to show my range. And yeah, I can illustrate buildings really well, though I really hate it. But because I can do it well, I should show that. But in fact, probably, like you said, if it's something that they're going to really not enjoy, but probably get commissioned to be doing,
you don't have to have a picture of everything in your portfolio. So, you know, like landscape might be a good idea, because you're going to have some pictures in a book where you're going to have to include that, possibly.
That's what I think for picture books. Every spread needs to show something different. And landscape is. I'm trying to think of books where there isn't any landscape. But it's something, because everywhere we live, there's some kind of landscape, whether it's indoors or what is behind you and what's around you as to what is outside.
But do it your way. Like, you know, if that's how you'd want to draw it, do it like that. Like, it doesn't not everything has to have meaning behind it either. You know, if you just fancy drawing, I don't know, a pigeon one day, just because you want to have a play, and you think, you know what, that would actually work in my portfolio because it shows XYZ, then put it in. It doesn't have to have this deep meaning to everything you do either.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything you've said there. So I mean, because we were talking about sort of working with publishers there, but so for people, for author illustrators, or just illustrators, or just authors that are querying at the moment, that would absolutely be, that advice is just great for them as well, because they're showing this to agents. But is there any other advice that you would offer? Any top writing illustration tips for querying authors and illustrators out there?
For querying, I would say I would have at least 3 manuscripts up your sleeve, because if, I mean, this happened to me, they wanted to see more. So I sent one, and then they were like, have you got anything else? We didn't use the anything else, but it just gave them an idea of my range, like the way I write. So yeah, so I'd say definitely have at least 3 decent manuscripts. Also, one thing I think that I've noticed a lot with people that I've spoken to who are you know, they're at this part of their journey in terms of querying, is they'll say to me, but it's not ready yet. And I say, okay, so why is it not ready? And I'll read it and I'll go, but you've got a full manuscript there. Why is it not ready? Oh, but this bit's not quite right, and this bit's not quite right. And okay, so when is it going to be ready? And then and then you get the, oh, well, I don't know. Right. What if it's never ready?
Yeah.
Like, so I think,
I mean, you could edit something and edit, re-edit for ages, and then it gets to
yeah,
a point where you've just got to go, okay, I need to. You might even go back and go, this, what I've done, I've just totally not done what I wanted to do with this, and
yeah,
you could use a past edit. But yeah, I think
that's it.
you can just carry on and carry on. It
You've got to be
depends. I mean, I'm quite
brave.
impatient, so I'll be like, no, I'm just doing it now.
Yeah.
I'm just sending that out. I can't look at it anymore. It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
You've got to be brave and believe in what you've done. And because the thing is, like you say, you can edit something to death, to the point where you've probably lost, you probably forgot where you started and think, oh, what did I mean to do with that? And what will happen is, inevitably, even if they buy it, even if they make you an offer, it's going to be edited as well. I mean, this book is not the same book that I submitted, but the idea was enough to grab them,
yeah,
and go, we'll work with you on this. And then it's turned into the book that it is. So I would say, don't wait forever for something to be ready. If you have a manuscript and it's decent enough, and people that you're sharing it with, so I would definitely recommend joining critique groups. They're absolutely invaluable. Like, people having other eyes on your work, because they'll notice things that you haven't noticed. They might suggest keeping things that perhaps you were thinking weren't great, but they're like, no, keep that in. That's wonderful.
yeah.
So yeah, critique groups. Don't wait forever. It will
Also,
be edited.
don't send out too soon either.
No, don't send it out too soon. But that's what I mean. Like, with the critique groups, get other eyes on it, so
Absolutely.
that you know you've edited it enough, so that it's good enough.
Yeah. Critique groups are worth their weight in gold, aren't they? They're just
Absolutely.
amazing. I would always say, like, if one person says something that doesn't quite resonate with you, then that's something you can kind of take on board and see if it works for you. But if a few people have said this isn't working, then definitely listen to what they're saying, because other people will possibly feel that way as well. So they are amazing, and they're there to help you, and they're there to support you, and they're your champions all throughout every
Absolutely.
single part of your journey. And like they become friends.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
most of the time they will be your friends. I love my critique groups. They're just amazing.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear that, because I think it's so many people maybe like don't use them, are so worried about sharing their work with other people, that your work will be going and being shared out there with hundreds of thousands of people hopefully one
Yeah.
day. So share it with a few that you're going to get that feedback from, and it'll be honest, and it'll be constructive, and it will be helpful and beneficial to you. So I think that's really, really important. But yeah, no, I think it's been so lovely to chat to you. I think because we've spoke, my last question is generally I start with the same question is with my people, with the guests that come on, and I end with what's next. But I think we covered a little bit of that earlier, and at the moment
Yeah.
we can't share. So we're looking forward to hearing more. But for now, we are, and I am, and everyone that we watch will be sending out all the luck with this amazing book, and looking forward for it to be coming over to the UK. It's really beautiful and something that is really important to share with children. So thank you for writing and illustrating it, because it's absolutely gorgeous. And thank you so much for joining me and coming on and just sticking with me through this whole weird connection issue, Lisa. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. It's been absolutely fine since. There's been no freezing.
I know.
So it's been something. It was just like, no, I need a break. I need a break from Arden. Like,
Yeah.
just listen to Lisa, ignore her for a while. But but it's been so lovely to chat to you. Thank you so much for coming on. And like I said, we wish you all the best with the dreams we made. It's really, really gorgeous. And for everything else that's going to happen that I can't wait to hear about. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon when we know some more news. Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it really has. Thank you. Oh wow, it was so really, really love talking to Lisa, and how gorgeous is her book. I just want to show it all to you, but I think you need to get it. So hopefully it'll all be coming out here in the UK very soon. But yeah, it's been so lovely, and I'm really sorry about the connection issue, and if I because it's live, and there's not really much I could do about it, so I'm really sorry, and I apologize if it's caused anyone any issues with watching. But so I won't be here next week because I'm actually on holiday for a week, but I'll be back on July the 6th, which is a Thursday, and I'll be chatting with Shelley Mack. And she is a picture book and a young adult author, and her book, young adult fiction fantasy, is coming out in November. I'm currently reading her ARC book now, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I can't wait to chat to Shelley, and she's coming on the 6th of July at 8 o'clock. So I'll send out some information about that before, but please do join me then, and have a lovely week, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.